At 7 o'clock, I call this meeting of the Red Oak Independent School District to order at 7 p.m. Let the record show that a quorum of board members is present. This meeting has been duly called and that notice of the meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meeting Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. All board members are present at this time. Mr. Sebring, would you introduce our...
I'd love to. Jared, if you'll come down. Sure. Jared Douglas is married to Amy Douglas, who is a graduate of Red Oak High School, and they have two daughters, Miss Jaden at Texas A&M and Miss Allie. And Jared spent 8 years in the United States Marine Corps and currently serves as a lead pastor at First Baptist Church of Red Oak. Jared also serves as the chaplain for Red Oak Police Department, Red Oak Fire Department, the Red Oak ISD Police Department, and Red Oak ISD football team. And Jared has his Bachelor of Science degree in Biblical Studies and Counseling and is finishing his master's degree in leadership from Liberty University and Dallas Baptist University. Jared, if you'll lead us in our invocation this evening, sir.
Sure. Thank you. Let me pray. Father, we thank you for this day. God, we thank you for waking us up this morning and just for the beautiful day you've given us. And God, thank you for the rain you gave us recently. And Lord, we thank you for the community we have here in Red Oak. God, more specifically for this school district and the way it serves this community and beyond. And Lord, we pray for those in leadership here, those that are involved here. Pray for our superintendent, for the school board, for every person that serves somehow, some way within Red Oak ISD. God, thank you for the investment they make day in and day out in the lives of our students. And Lord, we pray for tonight, God, for decisions they need to make. God, give them the wisdom and the clarity they need to make the right choices that would best benefit the students and the staff, both now and for the future. And Lord, we trust you for that. God, pray for our students, God, for their protection. Lord, we pray you continue to grow them and God, help them to be the best and apply themselves in the classroom, but God, also for the future and be the best citizens they can be in our society. And Lord, we pray for the families in our district that are hurting. God, we pray that you would encourage them like only you can, and God, you administer to them like only you can. And Lord, again, we just pray for tonight that you be glorified and that you give wisdom that needs to be brought tonight in the decisions and choices. And we ask these things in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, brother. Thank you, Jared. Tonight, can you introduce our pledge of allegiance?
Our September pledge leader is Lyric Taplin. Can you come on down, Lyric? Lyric is 10 years old. Her parents are Aquita and Sharon Taplin. She has 4 siblings, Jarius, Ivory, Marcella, and Harmony. Lyric's in the 5th grade at Eastridge Elementary School, and her teacher is Miss Taylor. Her favorite subjects are math and science. She enjoys volleyball and dance. Her favorite book is Baby Mouse. Her favorite pet is a koala or a what? A what? A capybara. I don't know what that is. Okay. When Lyric grows up, she wants to be a veterinarian, and the person she most admires is her mom because she works hard. Something she likes about herself is she's very independent. Lyric Taplin was chosen because she exemplifies the 4 talons of a hawk on a day-to-day basis. She's a leader in her grade level and is a role model for others to look up to in her actions. Academics and bettering herself is a focus for Lyric. She has a servant heart and is a good friend, and that's a good thing to have. So come on over and everybody stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. To the Texas flag. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Good job. Thanks so much. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, next we're going to move into our superintendent's report.
We're going to start with Michelle Owen and Megan Corns. They're going to be giving you a curriculum update.
Thanks.
No, I wasn't gonna. No problem. I just didn't want to reach.
There you go.
All right, good evening. Now is no time to think of what you do not have. Think of what you can do with what there is. This quote came across my email last week at a very appropriate time. So TEA was planning to release the accountability manual for the 23 school year. We have been anxiously awaiting its release, only to be told that it's delayed. So still, our teachers, our students, our parents are waiting to hear from TEA what last year's data tells us. But we can't wait. Our students are in the classroom, our teachers are working and have been since the beginning of August. We simply can't wait. And so we have to do what we can with what we have, and we have a lot. Our data tells us right now where our students are successful. It tells us where our teachers have worked really hard to close gaps, but it also tells us where our work is. And so what we're going to present to you tonight is a look at that data that we have from the assessments that we took back in the spring. And we're also going to talk to you about the strengths from that data, the identified gaps that we see already, and what we already have been putting in place, what we've been preparing over the summer, and what we're implementing right now. So that's what we're going to be walking through with you tonight. The 22-23 assessment year brought our campuses the STAR redesign, also known as STAR 2.0. In addition to being fully online, STAR 2.0 mandated a cap on the number of multiple choice questions and eliminated the standalone writing assessments that were previously given in grades 4 and grade 7. The redesign also introduced new interactive item types that are reflective of how our students demonstrate knowledge in the classroom. STAR 2.0 incorporates a writing portion on all Reading STAR assessments. The original STAR assessed writing in grades 4 and grade 7 only. Now, students in grades 3 all the way through their English 2 EOCs are tested and assessed in writing on every reading assessment. In addition to assessing writing, they also introduced what's called the extended constructed response. So previously on STAR, students responded to a prompt. There was typically a quote or a picture, and then they wrote a composition. Now students read either one or two passages, and they are expected to respond to that passage in a composition. Previously, the state looked more at author's craft and author's purpose, craft and voice when we were teaching students to write. They didn't count off if students used incorrect grammar, punctuation, or capitalization. With STAR 2.0, students are now graded on the mechanics of their writing. They are expected to use capitalization appropriately, punctuation, grammar, structure. They're supposed to have a well-organized composition, as well as respond to a passage and cite evidence from the passage in their response. The state also introduced the short constructed response. So the short constructed response is an open-ended question in which students respond in writing. The short constructed response can be found on your reading assessments, your science assessments, your social studies assessments, as well as the EOCs in English 1, English 2, biology, and U.S. history. got ahead of myself here. When we look at I'm gonna go back to the extended constructed response because there's the reason that we put that bullet first. So when students write their extended constructed response, there's 2 graders, just as there always have been. They can receive a score up to 5. Then the state adds those together for a total of 10 points. So when you look at that on their reading STAR assessments or English EOCs, that's 20% of their grade. So 20% is based on their writing. STAR 2.0 also included the technology enhanced items, and those can range anywhere from graphing, fraction models, there's drag and drop, sorry, mix those 2 words up, multi-select items where they choose more than one answer in response to a question. TEA also removed the 4-hour time limit. Previously, students were expected to complete the STAR or EOC assessments within a 4-hour time frame. They've removed that time frame, and students have the full school day to complete the assessment. In addition to the STAR redesign, the 2023 accountability system also received a refresh. It will be different, and you will not be able to compare it to 2022. So when you look at 2022 and 2023, it's like comparing apples to oranges, not only in the assessment, but also in the accountability system, how we're rated in each domain.
So even with the changes, one of the things that stayed the same are our performance labels. So you've seen these before, most likely, if you've seen any of our STAR results. So did not meet, the piece that to remind ourselves when we're looking at these performance levels is it is about telling parents, students, and teachers the level of intervention and support that's needed in the next level. So did not meet means the next school year, that student is going to need significant ongoing academic intervention. If a student receives approaches, then in the next school year, they're going to need targeted academic intervention. While meets will need short-term targeted and masters would need little or no academic help. So as we have been moving forward post-COVID, which I know we're ready to get past that, which we are, but we had a lot of focus on closing the gaps. And so the focus was on that approaches piece. But simply put, that can't be our focus. As a teacher, as a parent, I want to know that my students adequately and more than adequately prepared for the next grade level and going to be successful. So this is where our string comes in. So take your string and place it on the table in front of you. And if I asked you to take that string that's straight out in front of you and move it with your left hand to the right, you could take it with your left hand and you can push it. And the string is able to start moving, correct? But I don't move the whole string. And so when we came back post-COVID, we did a lot of that. Really pushing our students and trying to implement as much as we can to push them forward. But now that we have come as where we are today, our focus has to shift, and we have to move to pull that string. And we have to start at the top. So if I were to move that string with my right hand and I can pull it across, then I'm going to be able to have an impact at every level and not just focusing from the bottom. And so our campuses have done a lot to close the gaps. We had a lot of pieces that we weren't sure how long it was going to take for us to recover. And the good news is we've done a lot to move them to that approaches. But as we move forward, our finish line is meets and masters. And so as we look at the next grouping, so what we're going to do is go through our data. So we're going to start with 3rd through 8th grade data. So this is our 3rd through 8th grade data. One of the things to note is math is tested at every grade level. So math is 3rd grade all the way to 8th. Reading is every grade level, 3rd through 8th. Science is only tested at 5th grade and at 8th grade. And social studies is only tested at 8th grade. So while the majority of our students are at approaches, our work is clearly at the meets and masters level in order to successfully prepare our students moving forward. When we look at our EOC data, we are also seeing that our EOC data is on a positive trend. We have 73 to 95% of our students at that approaches level. And we have a positive trend in the area of meets and masters. And so as we look at how do you shift and how do you focus, we need a targeted focus. We need to know what is our goal and where are we headed. So the state provides that in part of the accountability system, probably part of the accountability system that they're revising. But we are going to utilize where they've previously said it, and we're going to talk through what we see as our long-term plan for the 5-year goal. And so as we move forward, we believe we've got to strive for 60% of our students at meets and 30% of our student at masters. Some of our grade levels and some of our campuses are going to meet that goal well before the 2028 goal. But some of our campuses are going to need that time to make smart, strategic, systematic changes that we're going to start outlining through you with our strengths and our gaps and our plan that we've already started putting in place.
So as we move forward, we want to recognize the hard work of our teachers and our students through the past several years. When we look at Red Oak as a whole, our consistent passing percentage has stayed consistent from 3rd grade through our EOCs. Again, like Ms. Corns just said, we are going to start focusing more on meets and masters, but when we look at percentage passing, it has stayed pretty steady. When we look at our EOC meets performance, we are in a positive trend. Right now, most of our EOCs, English 1, English 2, and U.S. history, when you look at their meets, they're at 50% or better at meets. With the extended constructed response, the state as a whole struggled with that change in STAR, but for us, that was one of our strengths in our English 2. They did well on the extended constructed response in English 2. And then at our elementaries, when you look at 5th grade reading, our overall performance, we're at 56% at meets and 28% at masters. So we are very close to our 5-year target already in that subject and grade. We also want to look back and identify some of the gaps so that we can address them this school year. Again, STAR 2.0 was a new test with new rules. Writing has been a challenge statewide for several years. That's one of the most rigorous tests that the state provides, and now they've put writing in all of our reading assessments. So when we look at writing, we're not only looking at the voice and the craft that we talked about before, but we're also making sure that our students have the mechanics of writing as well, that they are capitalizing appropriately, they are using appropriate punctuation, their sentence structure is appropriate for their grade level. With the new technology enhanced items, we did as a district practice different pieces of that, but as the state slowly released what that looked like, we didn't have a clear picture of how they would be assessed with that piece. And so now that the STAR 2023 has been released, we do have a better idea of what that looks like and can align our resources to our instruction to make sure that our students are aware of how to use those tools. Another big change is that the state changed the target for our college, career, and military readiness. They increased the target by about 20%. What makes it even more difficult is that is an area that has lagged 1 year. And so next month, when we receive our accountability report for the 2023 school year, it will be the 2021, 2022 graduates that are counted for the college, career, and military readiness. So that means our seniors this year that will graduate in 2024 will be reflected on the 24-25 accountability report. So when the state makes a huge change, like increasing it by 20%, it is more difficult because those students have already graduated. And then we also noticed the transition between 5th and 6th grade when we looked at those scores. And so when you think about 5th grade at elementary, For the most part, most of our elementaries have about 4 sections of 5th grade. And then when they move to the 6th grade, they have 7 sections, which means that their class time is shortened. I know Mr. Waller has really been working on the transition piece to make sure our kids are getting to class on time so they can receive the full amount of instruction at the middle school. He has designated buildings, so the West Campus is mostly 6th grade, main campus is mostly 7th grade, and CTE is mostly 8th grade. And then we also introduced a staggered bell schedule this year so that the hallways aren't as congested, and we're also continuing to use the tardy kiosk so that we can get our kids in class ready to learn on time. Also, as our students transition, it's very important that our teachers have access to the data that we have on our students. You know, at elementary, by the time they get to 5th grade, they're there for several years, and we've compiled a great amount of data. And so we need to make sure that as they transition to 6th grade, that we're providing those teachers with that data so they can immediately begin providing intervention and extension for those students. Next steps. So we have worked with our curriculum coordinators and our instructional coaches on creating a vertical writing structure in all content areas. So as students start in kindergarten, each year we're adding components to it that meet the demands of that grade level, and we're not reinventing the wheel every grade level as they transition from grade to grade. We are also aligning our curriculum horizontally across the district. This year there's professional development days throughout the year. There's approximately 1 per 6 weeks. We are utilizing those days to have our coordinators and our instructional coaches lead professional development, where we really examine our TEKS and our instructional practices, and making sure that we're supporting all of our teachers, our new teachers, our veteran teachers, and we're really building on those strengths that we have throughout the district, so it's what's best for all students across the district. Ongoing data review. This year we started our admin summit, really looking at data for our district. We are continuing that in principal meetings, assistant principal meetings, instructional coach meetings. Really making sure we know where our kids are doing well, where we need support, and creating intervention plans for the areas that we do need support. Because of that deep data dive, our principals are requesting that our coordinators are on campuses more, in PLC meetings and planning with all of our teams. This year we also have daily intervention at all campuses. Previously we had talent time at the elementary level and Hawk 101 at the middle school. At the high school, we had talent time on Wednesdays. This year, we have it 5 days a week. And then at all 3 levels, it will be focused on academic intervention, as well as some behavior at the secondary campuses. CCMR tracking group. So CCMR is that college, career, and military readiness. Our assessment and accountability team have put together a tracking group that meets bi-monthly to make sure that all of our students, that we have good plans for them for post-graduation, whether that be a career, whether that be college, or whether that be military. The PSAT, SAT, and ACT alignment project. So especially in 11th and 12th grade, our coordinators and our instructional coaches have identified the TEKS that align to the PSAT, the SAT, and the ACT. And those are our focus TEKS and PLC meetings so that our students are well prepared when they take those assessments at the high school level. Campus walkthrough initiative. So I have scheduled walkthroughs at every campus with all the campus principals. We'll be calibrating what we're looking for in classrooms with a focus really looking at alignment and are we teaching to the rigor of the TEK. We'll also be looking at student engagement and then, of course, writing. And then Lead Forward. We are watching the Lead Forward accountability series as well as the Leading Learning series. Lead Forward is a company that has really devoted their time to really understanding all the changes with Texas accountability, and then really researching best instructional practices. And so from those, we're turning that information around in principal meetings, assistant principal meetings, and instructional coach meetings. So at this time, we'll take any questions.
Just on your campus walkthrough, can you go through that just a little more? You know, I know I'm listening, but I just wanted maybe a little more in depth on the campus walkthrough. I know that's when you're going to get with everybody to see where we stand, where we're walking through to make sure we're doing what we need to be doing. When does that start and how often is it?
I've already visited a few campuses, and then I believe the first one on my calendar is at the end of this week. As a former principal, I think to make the biggest change, you have to be in the classroom on the front line, seeing where we can support teachers. And so we're going to start, we have to narrow the focus. We do have our T-test document that we use for walkthroughs, but to start with, I really want to narrow in on alignment. And so we'll really look at the TEK that they're supposed to be teaching, what that looks like when it's bundled with each of the process TEKs, which means all the different ways that they can teach that and have kids show us their learning. That's where you start. You start with alignment, making sure that we're teaching at the rigor at which the state expects the standard to be written as. But we're also going to look at student engagement. You can have the best lesson, but if the students aren't participating and they're not engaged, that's where the learning takes place, is the engagement by students. And then writing. Writing is a focus across all content areas. It's one of the highest levels to show our learning. So in math, as students work problems, they can also write out how they solve the problem or write out a different way to solve the problem. In science, there's just so many ways that you can incorporate writing. You can talk about different graphic organizers. You can talk about how an experiment was done. You can talk about if you change one of the variables in an experiment. And then social studies is another, in all content areas. There's really, you can write everywhere. It's just making sure that we're intentional about it. And then when we create our plans, that we're intentionally putting in writing activities to make sure our students are doing that.
When you build that database on this information, and you look at all campuses, is there a comparison that's made, during the process as we're going through the walkthroughs? I know you're starting it. Is that going to be utilized where you can see one campus compared to another?
I really want to focus on coaching with students, but yes, I can absolutely record that data. And then we can also record the data from the T-test walkthroughs that they use on a regular basis as well. But yes, we'll be documenting what we're seeing, how to follow up with coaching, obviously look at positives, and how we can make an impact on instruction.
Okay, thank you.
For those kids that are in DAP, are we going there and doing the same with those kids so when they do get back on campus, we're still where we need to be instead of going backwards?
We have had several talks about DAP. Ms. Thompson has been super supportive in making sure that the teachers in DAP are also attending content training. And so, not just having kids work independently, but really learning the content and working with those students in there. We have identified that sometimes if they're in there for an extended time, it is evident in their learning. And so we are working with Ms. Thompson to make sure that the staff in there is trained on content and so that they can teach in there as well.
I have a couple questions, so if you have a question, go ahead.
Well, she specifically said DAEP, but I'm assuming that also includes ISF. From the kids are,
Yes.
it's a shorter time, but still.
Yes, and behavior is another focus in the district this year as well, and so we'll be working on behavior lessons as well in those areas, including academics.
How are we integrating technology with what we're doing here?
So a lot of one of the pieces that we're working on is making sure that we're using the best quality applications. So we are working hand in hand with the curriculum department so that we are reviewing our applications that we're using and making sure that they're aligned. And so there are some programs that, because of COVID, were free. And so a free program's great if it's a good program. If it's a bad program, just because it's free, we don't necessarily need to be utilizing it. And so working with the coordinators to make sure that we're using only the best and that we're kind of serving as somewhat of a gatekeeper to make sure that our time in the classroom and on devices isn't just filling up time, but is academically placing the students where they need to be. In addition, we also have Canvas that we can then capitalize on seeing how other, like when they're doing their district collaboration, being able to share how they're using Canvas across the district and making sure that that support is provided to all students.
When you mentioned that some of these statistics, these grades were from seniors that graduated what year?
So that's going to be the college and career and military readiness. So that's that one indicator. And we actually did not have that data up on the screen today, but that information is going to be from our graduates from 2022. That they will be accounted in this year's accountability.
Okay, but not in all the other ones?
Correct.
Just- Okay.
Correct.
Can you go back to the scores for the initial 3rd through 8th? Yeah, start right here. So, a couple questions. One is, are they, so for a 3rd grader, I'm assuming this is 3rd through 8th, so for math, you have all your scores rolled into one lump, not just 3rd grade, 4th grade, whatever. So when you look at do not meet, approaches, meets, and masters, is every student starting off at 4th grade, are they all working towards the same number, or is it dependent on that kid from the year before?
They're working towards the same.
Okay, so whatever meets, they're all using the same
Yes.
number for the meets, okay. So if that's the case, how do you have numbers that are, for math, that are above 100%? You have 4 categories.
It's because the approaches percentage is the percent at approaches and above. So in that approaches number, it's going to be your students that scored approaches, meets, and masters. And then meets is going to be meets and masters,
Okay,
and then
so they're-
masters is just
they're cumulative.
masters.
Okay. And for daily intervention for middle school and the high school, so Talent Time, Clock 101, are those only in the mornings?
No, those are combined with, and Robin Howard, correct me if I'm wrong, in the class period. I think it's 4th period at one campus and 5th period at the other. It's an extension of 30 minutes to that block.
Okay, so it's not in the morning, it's in the afternoon, because I think it used to be in the morning. Or you have tutoring in the morning. Okay. So kids that play, I guess my point is, students who have band, athletics, or whatever, there's an opportunity for them to get the tutoring or the extra time they need throughout the day. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, got it. I think it's, appreciate it.
So, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, we're going to move into our Safety Week update. Chief Pacifica. Thank you again for your hard work. It was a lot of information. Thank you.
Good evening. Just an update from last week's Safety Week. Just a little history, for those of you. Last year, we went to 3 drills in the fall and 3 drills in the spring. The state mandate is 1 in the fall and 1 in the spring. Last year, basically on the aftermath of Uvalde, there was kind of a lot of changes. We felt it was important to really increase the number of drills. After the year, we talked about that, and we want to continue to exceed the state mandate, but worked with the administration, and we went to 2 instead of 3 because the 3 became very cumbersome for the curriculum part to make sure that everything that y'all just were talking about, there's time available for that. So we went to 2. We still are doubling the state standard for the fall and the spring. But I just want to point that out that this year we'll be doing that instead of the 3 with the fire drill every month, because that's required anytime we got students for 10 days in a month. So fire drill is still every month. Our safety week was last week, the week of September 11th. We tested all 5 parts of the standard response protocol at all the campuses, excluding ROMs, and they'll be doing their fire drill either this week or before the end of the month. Basically, the torrential downpours came, so the outside footing was something that we had to deal with. Plus, we had, I'll address in a minute, an unannounced lockdown. So there was a lot of things going on at ROMs at the end of the week. So Mr. Waller and I worked together on that, and we pushed that to either this week or next week before the end of the month as far as the fire drill. I do want to also thank Red Oak Police and Fire. They came out to our Red Oak campuses. The police came to the lockdowns at our secondary campuses, and Red Oak Fire came to every Red Oak campus for the fire drill. So I'm going to make sure I recognize those folks for coming out. The secondary campuses was actually, I had reached out to them for some help, because this year we kind of have different sets of rules with campus coverage. And in the past on Safety Week, we've moved folks around from within our internal staff to help cover on the lockdowns to check the doors, but we're a little more limited of who we can move in from certain campuses. So I reached out, and like I said, Red Oak was very gracious, assisted us with that. We did do the Raptor integration again, and have continued to build on that. We're still up some learning curves, but we did a big dive before school started. We've seen a lot of improvement this time in the safety week with the Raptor integration. There still were some identified problems where teachers were having some issues, but what we've learned at most of the campuses is able to leave the drill open, and then they go individually at the campus level to talk to the teacher to bridge any gaps that's identified. So I thought that was a good way to do that. Whatever you drill, you're always going to identify some issues, and we do that every year, whether it's kids forgetting to be quiet or a teacher maybe not out of the window where you could be seen. Those things are addressed. This year, we've always debriefed, but now with new state legislative stuff, we're also doing after-action reports, or the campus levels are for every drill. So those are things that we're addressing at the campus level, anything like that. So I think that's a good learning curve. Again, it wasn't a lot, but you're always going to have something you identify. I did talk about the unannounced lockdown at ROMs. What happened there is there were a couple campuses where the Informicast didn't work during the drill. IT was able to correct one of those immediately at one campus, but ROMs was an issue that we identified that we had to contact our outside contractor, who came out the next day, but unfortunately, while working in the room at Red Oak Middle School, set the lockdown off, and everybody went into action, and as it was a real thing until we were able to, the officers quickly responded from their parts on the other positions on the campus, and were able to identify that it was human error, and so we were able to move out of that pretty quickly. But a little stress in your life, I guess, never hurts, but that, again, there were people at the campus, and I was stuck at another campus covering, going, I wonder what's going on, So, I mean, it was definitely a test, but of the real situation. But thankfully, it was an error about just messing with the system. They hit something and it set it off. But all that stuff has been corrected as far as the announced through the Informicast system. Again, some of the things we saw are that happened. That's why we drill. And we always try to schedule the safety week earlier in the year so we can find those things out, or reemphasize those things where we need improvement or growth. So I think that's good. The next part of the standard response protocol, the one remainder for each part, except for the fire, obviously, the campus emergency management AP and the campus security folks will work together to get those scheduled and use the Raptor system for the scheduling. And as we move through the rest of this calendar year, those will all get tested again at the campus levels. I don't have anything else. I will be glad to answer any questions you may have.
So in case of a real emergency we have to keep an officer at each campus, how do we handle that now?
Well, on a real emergency, I mean, there has to be flexibility in state law, and there's always exceptions while that's not stated. I mean, if we have, and I'll use 2 campuses just for proximity, but if we have an incident at Shields, that Shupman officer is going to come, and then we're going to start filtering that way to backfill and obviously involve Glen Heights and whoever else agencies around. But we'll have to apply common sense. I mean, the legislators wrote a law requiring certain things, but obviously in an emergency situation where there's an incident that has to be responded to, we're going to send the closest folks we can see. Excuse me.
I said, you got to take care of your own at that point and not worry about what the state says you
Yes,
got to
sir.
do. They ain't coming.
Ms. Ensign?
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I just have a real quick update that I want to give y'all too as well. Just some highlights of some things that have been going on. I want to congratulate Red Oak High School student. Actually, is he high school? Dakota? He's
Yes.
middle school. Okay. Promotion of cadet second lieutenant at the General Billy Mitchell ceremony. I got confused because we held the ceremony at the middle school. Kind of threw me off there. Only 15% of Civil Air Patrol cadets will obtain the General Billy Mitchell Award, so that's a huge honor for Dakota Weimer, so congratulations to him. Red Oak High School Naval JROTC, I hope you had an opportunity, if you weren't there, to watch it online. They observed Patriots Day by hosting a flag-raising ceremony in front of the school, followed by a pinning ceremony. It was amazing to watch. Mr. Gatewood, y'all done a great job recruiting the number of students that we had marching around that building. I mean, it would absolutely give you chills to see all those students in there really participating. Also, just a little background. The Red Oak NJROTC was established at Red Oak High School in 2009, and the unit has earned achievement awards and led the way in community and school service continually. Our elementary schools also celebrated Grandparents' Day on September the 6th. There was a lot of grandparents. Parking was difficult if you didn't get there at just a strategic time. I found myself parking by the dumpsters most of the time, so that's the only place I could find to park. But they had a great turnout, and appreciate the campuses really working to incorporate all the grandparents in that activity. Also, exciting news, Google is building a new data center in Red Oak and announced a $150,000 grant to Red Oak ISD that they are going through the Red Oak ISD Education Foundation. And they're going to be, Karen Anderson and myself went over to the event. They're going to be funding some STEM expansions for secondary students, including Project Lead the Way Engineering, robotics, and science initiatives. And they're also using additional funds to assist with the purchase of Suite 360. That's the district-wide behavioral program that we're actually implementing and training on. So we're excited that they're going to contribute to that as well. It's a lot about positive behaviors, effective communication, growth mindset, and just responsible decision making. So we're really excited about that. And they're also going to contribute some funds to the Red Oak High School for upgrades to the Learning Commons, to the library. So we're going to make a lot of good use of that $150,000, and we're so appreciative of Google for donating that to the Education Foundation for these initiatives. Also, Red Oak ISD hosted the North Texas Food Bank School Pantry Program on September 14th, and we want to thank Omega Psi Phi fraternity and also Secretary Mickey Porter. She came out and volunteered as well, and some of the pictures, she's actually loading those boxes in the back of the truck, so we appreciate her coming out as well. Also, at Founders Day, we had several ROISD groups that participated in the parade and the festival. Ms. Peterson and I walked around. I always kind of tag along. She happens to know everybody that's there. So I kind of tagged along with Ms. Peterson, and we were able to visit with a lot of the community members, and it's great just seeing the students and the staff and community members and business leaders all coming together. It was really a good turnout. I thought it was great. September's Firefighter Appreciation Month, and we want to thank all the firefighters for their service and support to Red Oak ISD and our other communities. We are currently celebrating National Hispanic Heritage Month from September 15th to October 15th, so keep an eye out. Lots of campuses are having events, so it'll be on our website, on their websites as well, and also on all of the social media. So we're going to have lots of neat events with that. Celebrate Freedom Week is this week, if you didn't notice. Everyone's in their red, white, and blue up here. And campus activities will be taking place all week, including students memorizing and reciting the preamble to the Declaration of Independence. We also have Mentors Care. If you're not aware of what that is, Mentors Care provides an opportunity for adult mentoring to some of our high school students. And the board has come together and they are making some donations of snacks to the program. And so at this time, we have the board members to go ahead and grab the snacks they are donating and bring them down front. And we will be presenting those to Mentors Care later in this week.
I didn't know if you needed. I'm right behind you.
Is that all on your update? So now it's a good time, if you have a little one you want to leave, get out of here early, it's a good time to do that. Not you, Brent. Said if you have a little one, not if you're a little one. Anybody sign up? Okay, we're gonna move into our action items. You have the consent agenda listed. Is there anything you'd like to remove for discussion? Do you have a motion?
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
We have a motion by Ms. Peterson and a second by Ms. Porter. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed, same sign. Passes 7-0. Consideration and approval of purchase of district vehicles, Mr. Fields.
In your packet, I think you see the request that we made. This is to replace a 2016 Ram 3500 that will now be used by support services, and we're going to buy a new one and give it to the agriculture science department. Our 2006 Chevy. Moment of silence. That's long enough. It was used when we bought it for the ag department back in 2010, and it's served its time.
Do we have any questions?
That 3,500, is that like a
That's a
one-ton? One-ton?
One-ton
Okay.
unit.
That's what I
for,
thought.
Yeah. Everybody wants to know how we can get that price for ourselves.
Yeah,
So,
really. Good price.
Do we have a motion?
I make a motion that we approve the purchase of the 2024 Ram 3500 truck for the agricultural science program for the 2023-2024 budget year.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Knight, second by Mr. Sebring. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Passes 7-0. Consideration and approval of purchase of school bus, Mr. Fields.
this is just like we did last year. We normally buy 3 buses, but we have the need and we have the funds available to purchase a bus. And one, there are some available, as we'd like to purchase another bus. We'll need it for extended additional routes. We need all the yellow chauffeurs we can get. So we have the funds available and a bus is available. We'd like to purchase an additional bus at this time.
Is this just
Just a
this is
regular
adding to
77.
our
Yeah,
fleet,
it's
right?
just adding to our fleet.
Okay.
yes. We've already received the 3 that we got, that we buy every year, but this is an additional, just like we did last year. We bought an additional last year.
Are we gonna replace one, or are we just adding it?
We're down, I think, how many, 2 in the last auction? 3? Yeah.
Nobody wants.
We'll go back to the auction. If you're interested.
That's a rerun.
It's some of the 2006s that have had several engines that,
Yeah, I know which ones they are.
yeah, so
Yeah,
we can't even give them away.
that's horrible.
But we don't, what we're trying to do is to increase the fleet and just have an extra bus needed.
Sound like you just need to take it to the grandstaffs.
Well, yeah, but you got to take the fuel tank out. Well, they have requirements.
Do we have a motion?
I make a motion to purchase the one 77 passenger bus with the appropriate 3-point seat belts.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Knight, and a second by Ms. Peterson. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Passes 7-0.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Rios. Consideration and approval of legal services and agreement resolution for legal proceedings against the Commissioner
Yes.
of Education.
Okay, I've got a PowerPoint I'm going to give you. You'll be happy to know I'm not going to read it all to you, but I did want to put this PowerPoint out there. It'll be on our website as well. If anyone wants to get the information, has some data on it, just to give you a little bit of background. This is something that was put out by TEA. Again, I'm not going to read the entire thing to you, but the blue box, it's important to note because they themselves, TEA themselves admitted that, just as Ms. Owens said earlier, that it is not comparing apples to apples this year, that there's no way to compare last year's STAR test to the new STAR test that is there. So this is just by TEA's own admittance that they're saying it's not comparable. And then we'll go on into, I'm not going to again read this to you, but just to remind everyone that there are 3 different domains that we are judged on, and one is the student achievement, where they look at the STAR test. There are components in each one, graduation rate, college career and military readiness. And then as we go into domain 2, again, with school progress, and they look at the academic growth and the relative performance, they choose whichever one is the highest. We do get that little caveat there. They'll choose one of those 2. And then domain 3 is the one that really we're going to look at the focus on it the most, because that is the CCMR. We're going to talk about that CCMR that Ms. Owen and Ms. Corns also explained to us a little bit about. But those are just the 3 actual domains that they go through. Again, I'm not going to read it to you. It'll be on our website. It has not changed as far as the actual domains themselves, only the cut points and scoring. So the cut scores to be determined. TEA has yet to determine the standards. And so that means the cut scores, what those scores actually mean. Their delay is not going to change our scores, but it's going to possibly change what those scores mean on what we are graded on. The TEA refresh, which I appreciate the curriculum and technology going into detail on some of that. I want to talk about a little bit what's highlighted on here. They did change the rules. Even though we are actually just now beginning to truly dig out of the COVID slide. And it's possible, this is TEA's own words in yellow, it's possible that a campus with an A in 2022 may improve in 2023 and receive a B or a C based on the changing in the cut scores. So that is actually by their own admittance that they are saying that it would be a decrease in that. This approach means that it's going to paint a negative light on school districts, and so that's just something for us to think about. Again, the CCMR example, if you will look in red, in 2017, the average performance was 47%. And then the cut point was set at 60%. CCMR then was meeting that goal, and the average performance became 65% 5 years later. So when you're looking at the data, you're thinking, okay, our goal is to get to that 65% for an A, but the new refresh, which rules came out after the fact, like Ms. Corns and Ms. Owen were saying. This is going to be based on data, depending on the year they graduated for year ago, and some of the students even 2 years ago that have already graduated. The new cut point is 88% to get an A. So if you look at that 60%, which is what it was, moving to 80%, that's a 28-point increase, which actually is equivalent to 47% increase to get to an A rating now. So what was the 60 is now 88. And so that again is just setting schools up for failure. Just kind of this is not our scores, this is no one's scores, this is just something that was put out there to kind of just to show us what it would mean. So if you had a 40% CCMR with the old scores, the component of 72 would be an A, a 93. Now with 40% CCMR, component of a 72, it would drop you to a 76. So if you were an A, you could drop to a C. So 2 grade levels. This is just a slide just to kind of show you, and again, I'm not going to read it all to you. We've already went through some of this, exactly where our high school fell. If you get on our TEA data tracker, I just pulled these off of TEA's website, and you can see Algebra 1 approaches was 80%, Biology 88, English 1 70, English 2 81, and U.S. History 95. Again, as the ladies explained earlier, our meets, we're wanting those to go up, but if you look at the high school, again, the meets 40%, 48, 51, 61 and 69. Those are very good scores on meets. And then masters, again, they had the scores on there. We want them better. We always want to get better. We are not content with what we have. We're not even content with the approaches. We want that to be more as well. But if we move that string, like she's saying, move that needle on the masters and meets, it's going to also bump up the approaches. So we are owning the fact that we want things to be better. But I think what's disheartening is if you compare these scores to last year's scores across the high school campus, they increased. So their scores actually went up in all of the approaches. And so they were looking at improvement, thinking we're going to bump up possibly from that B rating to possibly getting closer to an A rating on that campus. And before, now that they've delayed it, when we plugged everything in, actually what it did was look like it was going to be a D. So with improvement, dropping 2 letter grades. Again, that is going to be with the old information. Now we don't know what the state's going to do with that since they've delayed it. So this is just information on the data interaction page that I pulled that from. Again, I just wanted that on the slideshow for the public and for the board if anyone wants to see that. So with what we're going to be asking you to do, I didn't want anyone to think, well, is this just like a knee-jerk reaction? What have we done prior to asking for us to join this litigation? So I wanted to kind of give you an idea of what the things that we have done. So on March the 6th, a letter went out from 200 plus districts asking Commissioner Morath and members of the Education Committee and Governor Abbott to please pause the accountability A through F with no response. That was in March. So then in May, I actually wrote a letter myself to Governor Abbott and the Commissioner Morath regarding vouchers and accountability with no response. May 26th, 55 legislators joined together in a bipartisan effort asking to pause the A through F refresh due to unrealistic expectations and timing with no response. August the 24th, I drafted another letter to Commissioner Morath regarding the accountability A through F system with no response. So this is just an example. Actually, this is actually the letter that we sent out 200 districts, and I just kind of highlighted, underlined some points just to let you know what we were asking them to consider at that point. And what I've underlined is this is a significant concern that we request TEA pause the accountability system, the refresh. We told them that TEA is proposing to raise the cut scores necessary for a district to receive an A from 60 to 88, which is a 47% increase. Not that they didn't know that, but just pointing it out to them. We also asked, said that they would use that justification, that if they'd use that justification, too many schools receiving an A rating would drop and everybody receiving any rating would actually drop. So we just pointed out some of the obvious. Again, 47% in a single year will create a misconception. It will make it look like that schools are failing. It's in the midst of a teacher shortage. It's the last thing that we need for it to create a false narrative. It would drive a wedge between schools and families because it makes it look like we're not doing our job, which is, we can always get better. We own that. But it takes away from the fact that we are improving. I said in there, moving forward with this is irresponsible, and it would cause significant confusion amongst the community. It would put increased pressure on teachers and staff who are already at their breaking point. And the policy decisions were very, very politically motivated. Still believe that. So then on this letter, again, 55 legislators joined together in a bipartisan effort, again, trying to do that. They kind of repeated the same thing that originally was in the first letter. It's very concerning that they're moving those CCMR scores like they are. The new goals are retroactive. It's very hard. This is in here as well. It's very hard to follow the rules of a game if the rules come when the game has ended, and that's pretty much what they have done. That it's pretty discerning and concerning that you could increase your scores and still drop 2 letter grades with the increase, and that nowhere, the very last line I underlined, nowhere in this does it state the commissioner must raise the cut scores this specific school year, much less raise them so high that it's unachievable. Again, we pointed out the fact that school leaders have done an extreme amount of work trying to get kids back on track. And again, that was talked to you as well by Ms. Owen and Ms. Corns. And what our kids in schools need right now is stability. They need a chance to return to normal, and our expectation that this priority be reflected in our new accountability system. And in order to be fair and transparent, that they needed to give us realistic opportunities to strive to meet our goals and appropriate levels that would reflect the hard work that educators, students, and parents are putting in. These are all the signatures of all of your representative senators who signed it. Then, like I said, I drafted my own letter on the 24th as well, and kind of reiterated that they changed the rules after the test had been taken, and that it simply reeked of a setup for failure, and that shouldn't the districts at least know the rules before entering the year? Again, kept saying it, you're simply setting us up for failure. You're making schools look bad. It's a political movement. It's a personal political agenda. District scores, even when passing last year, will be labeled as a failure. It will skew the public perception of the achievements of the district and take the wind out of the sails of those who've worked so hard to do their best. The results, again, will not reflect the hard work. I just said it like I felt it. It's sad that our great state of Texas seems to be plunging into the place of negativity on a political agenda. Our scores are not anywhere near where we want them to be. Again, we own that. We own the fact we want to get better, and we can get better. However, I wanted him to also hear that our students are learning and they're amazing young people, and that we need expectations ahead of time if we're going to have a fighting chance. I asked him to take a stand for what was right. That's what he is there for. And that I hope that they would go back and do what was best for these students and postpone the A through F refresh. As of now, today, the commissioner has still not finalized the rules and methodologies that are going to be used. That's likely in violation of state law. That's the basis of a portion of the lawsuit, is that that needs to be given to us before the evaluation of the school district and the campuses. Again, the state law is failure of the commissioner to comply with state law and provide an explanation of the measures, methods, and procedures to be used during the 22-23 school year. And it is done without any advance notice. It's retroactive after the fact. No way we can change what our seniors of last year did. So next steps. August the 23rd, a lawsuit was filed by 7 districts naming Commissioner Mike Morath as the defendant. Petition filed collectively saying that TEA's decision to modify the ratings after the fact was not fair and in violation of the law. September the 12th, TEA announced a delay of the ratings this to past October, not giving us an exact date, but just saying past October at the earliest. September 14th, Dallas ISD joins the lawsuit. And of course, we have it on our agenda to look at it. Other ones that have it on their agendas coming up to Fort Worth ISD and Frisco, Carroll, Crowley, and Prosper. Several others but we were trying to pull those that were here closer to us so you could have an idea of those. The anticipation is that we'll win the lawsuit, but whatever happens in the lawsuit, I just think it's important for us to bring to light the serious concerns that we have. I think it is the right thing to do to fight for our students and our teachers, to let them know that we support them and that giving us rules to the game after the game is already finished is not something that is acceptable. So, any questions on that? Okay. So with that being said, then the administration recommends that the Red Oak Independent School District School Board sign a resolution to join in the A through F refresh lawsuit against TEA.
And so the amount spent on this lawsuit is not as much as what it started to be.
That is correct. When I originally got that at the first of last week, the cap was $10,000. And they said it would come down the number of school districts that filed, and it distributes that amount. 2 days later, it was dropped to 5,000. So it could be even less than that. That was last week, was the 5,000 cap. And also important to note too, that in the event that you choose to join the lawsuit and TEA does the right thing and changes things and postpones or does whatever that is right for the district, we can pull out at any time. That is also in the contract with the agency, that we can pull out of the lawsuit at any time. You can actually give me the authority, or we can come back to the board and do that.
We have a motion?
I move that we adopt the resolution to join litigation challenging the Commissioner of Education's failure to provide Texas school districts advance notice of measures, methods, and procedures to be used in the 2022-23 and 2023-24 school years prior to the start of each of these school years in violation of state law.
Second.
A motion by Ms. Peterson, a second by Mr. Sebring. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0.
Thank y'all.
I just want to make sure that the teachers all know as well that we know how hard they've all worked, and we know how hard those kids have worked.
Yes.
And so I think that this is one way we can show them that we do support them. Because, I mean, TEA was off, whole year with COVID, and they weren't going to their office and answering their phones even. So, I just think that it's hard enough to get teachers, and this is maybe one of the reasons why, is because they work so hard to get our students where we need to get them. And I know, Mr. Gatewood, your teachers have worked extremely hard to get those up, and it's really sad when you're going back to those kids that have already graduated. They were off for the year with COVID, I mean, you're still including that COVID year in there, so they still have to make up that year. But I just think that all teachers and staff members need to know that I think I can speak for everybody on this board, that we do support them, and we're proud of their efforts that they've given, and they've worked really hard on it.
Exactly.
Thank y'all.
Yep.
All right. The time is 8:08 PM. And the board will adjourn into closed session pursuant to multiple Texas Government Codes.